All right, there we go. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean. Today we got episode 308. We're doing a random flight. We're going to do some all sorts of different things. We're going to talk some old school stuff. You've got some stuff on social pressure. Some experiments or
I got an old study from on social pressure from the 50s, 1950s. That's
man,
75 years ago, basically. And
is that going back to like Pavlov and some of those things?
It's way back there. It's like I don't know if you could get away with that stuff these days. I don't know what. Yeah, because this was it was done in college, so you can imagine the hazing and stuff that happened probably. But yeah, it's funny. I'll give a little hint here for those watching on the videos. I've got two index cards. One has 3 lines and one has 1 line.
Oh, I love these.
And that was the basis of the study.
Yeah.
Or that was the tool used in the study. It wasn't the basis of the study, but very interesting what happened. So that one's going to be fun to talk about, and also kind of like, would that work today?
Yeah.
The outcome that they found, is that still true today? Are people more smarter? All kinds, those kind of questions. And then the other thing I found, somebody sent this to me. A friend sent it to me. Sent a 4-hour YouTube commercial ad that has 18 million views in 90 days. And it's a 4-hour.
I don't think I've ever seen a 4-hour ad.
Yes. Yeah. And I
haven't even watched a 4-hour movie.
I know, right? Yeah. So it won't be what you expect, but it's kind of clever.
Okay.
It's interesting. We'll see if there's a way our listeners can apply or do something similar in their world. So that'll be fun. And then you've got a couple things.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. Once it kind of was a takeaway. I was at the Craft Brewers Conference this week in Nashville, and got a couple of takeaways. My big one was, as we go back to time and time again, talking about trade show advertising and how lousy it is, but also the fact that this coincided with a post with one of our previous guests and friend, Kevin Donlin. He's been on our podcast before in the past, and I follow some of the stuff he does on LinkedIn. He's got some really good posts occasionally, but he mentioned speaking of old school, you're talking something in the 50s. I'm going to go back to something called the FCB grid that was developed back in the 80s.
Which, by the way, is like 40 years ago.
Stop it, Sean. I'm feeling old enough as it is, but yeah, it's and you'll see how how companies use emotional appeal with this grid to create, big companies like Apple really, had a lot of success, and you'll see, the reasons why when you look at the way this grid is laid out. So
cool. I love a good tool like that to help you kind of visualize and understand, what's going on. So that'll be cool to look at.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we dive in, that's a little teasers. Let's talk about the beverages we have on tap. What do you got a bold one over there?
I do. I'm excited about this one. I have a Russian Imperial Stout, and this one is an old Rasputin. I don't know if any of our listeners know the whole history of Rasputin. He was kind of one of those mystics back in the day with the old Russian oligarch. I think he was a spiritual advisor or something. But I know I've it's been a while since I read, but I know he met a pretty rough fate. I mean, the guy was poisoned like 2 or 3 times. Got shot. Got shot numerous times.
Was he in like the prequel, the Kingsman? The Kingsman prequel?
I believe so. Yes.
I'm sure they just totally blew his character out of proportion, but
of course.
Because he was pretty raunchy in that movie.
Yeah. But. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the guy was pretty weird. He was a pretty strange character, but But anyway, this is a Russian Imperial Stout, 9% ABV, produced in the tradition of 18th century English brewers who supplied the court of Russia's Catherine the Great. Old Rasputin seems to develop a cult following wherever it goes. Ha ha ha. Nice play on words. I love that. It's a rich, intense brew with big, complex flavors and a warm finish. Again, the only thing that I saw was if you go down here, 9%. Interesting. 75 IBUs, though. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold,
I don't.
94 gold. When was that? A gold medal in the 2018?
Yeah. World Beer Championship 2018 up in Chicago. Highly recommended by Rate Beer overall score.
100. Not bad.
What was interesting, Sean, some of these beer, what's the Untapped, they had a huge booth at this show in Nashville. Yeah, they had a big tent. So they were definitely doing some marketing. It was kind of interesting to see some of these players, but yeah. So what do you have over there? What are you drinking?
I've got a Shiner, Texas's own Shiner. But it's a trail mix ale.
Ooh, okay.
So it's called Trail Ale, and it says take a hike with Trail Ale, a full-bodied ale that serves as the perfect hiking partner, brewed with nuts, dried fruit, and chocolate. Our latest seasonal beer combines all your favorite outdoor flavors into a beer that tastes just as good on and off the trail. Coming in at an ABV of 6%, a bitterness of only 30 IBUs.
Wow.
There's my radio voice. So, yeah, and it's definitely a lighter
6%. Yeah. Look at that.
Ale color.
That must be bright. I've never seen this one from
Shiner. They're really starting to play into the craft game here locally. I don't know if they've rolled them out nationwide.
Right.
Yeah, they're really starting to come
right there in Shiner, Texas. Texas.
Yep.
All right, hold it up again. Let's see.
Yeah, mine's a little lighter than yours. It looks even darker on video. It's not nearly that dark.
Yeah, right. All right.
All right. Well, let's cheers it up.
Cheers. I love a good trail mix. I don't know about you. If I'm out on the Appalachian Trail, that's a go-to. You always got to have a little.
Yeah, they've got one.
I like making my own bag. I don't know about you. I like making my own bag.
Well, HEB here has one that is just perfect. It's got just the right amount of everything in it. Man, I think I put on 10 pounds this year eating that stuff. Because I would just go down to the pantry and just grab a handful. That stuff's got some calories in it.
Oh, it does. It does.
Nuts and the dried fruit and the M&Ms and man, it adds up.
Yeah, it's perfect when you're burning those calories on the trail, but when you're doing a little office work,
it's not the best. So, all right, well, I'll go ahead and rate mine. This is really, really good. It has that lighter ale taste, but it gives you some of that craft of some of the darker craft beers, but it's lighter like an ale. So yeah, this is really, really good. Man, I've been giving high scores lately. I'm going to give this a 4.8.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Been on a nice streak. Getting some
very
good
nice.
beverages. So where are you at now that you're halfway done?
Got to give it a fair shot. I'm going to, I think I'm going to give this one a 4.4. I think it's good.
Too bitter?
No, I think it's you can I mean, you can certainly see, I definitely see why it's got a 75 IBU rating, because there is a little aftertaste that does have a little bitterness on the aftertaste, but overall it's a nice balance for a Russian Imperial. So, I'm going to I think 4.4 is a fair rating on this one. I like it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's dive in. Where do you want to start?
I'm interested to start on this experiment. So,
okay. Yeah.
Let's get some participation going here.
All right. So the the experiment is it was called the Asch conformity experiment.
Okay.
It's conducted by Salman Asch in the 1950s. And
Salman Asch. Okay.
Yes. Isn't that a classic 50s name, like professor's name? You know, so he was a
Dr. Salman
professor at a
Asch.
university. I can't remember which one, but anyway, so it was basically a study in social pressure and conformity.
Right.
And he demonstrated that people often go along with majority view, even when that view is obviously incorrect.
Okay.
So in this study, 30% of the people chose the wrong answer, even though it was obviously incorrect because of social pressure. So here's what happened. They gave participants that came into a room, they gave them 2 cards, and I'm holding up 2 index cards on.
Okay. Yep.
On one, there is a single line, and on the others, there's 3 lines of different lengths. The goal of the experiment, and you can see this on the video if you're watching the videos, it was to just simply match up the line so that the same length line, whichever one you think it is, you just match them up and you put them next to each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Simple as that. So they're probably, about a 1/4 of an inch difference between each line, or a little bit more on one. But so, this would be the correct answer. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, just by looking, from a visual, yeah.
Yeah, and it's no tricks. Like there's no tricks. There's no optical illusions. There's no nothing, right? Well, here's what they did. This is kind of cruel, actually. And some of these college experiments, did you ever do one when you were in college? Did you ever go to like the psych labs and volunteer and get $20 for beer?
No, I didn't. Probably should have. I was broke all the time.
It's actually kind of, I remember doing one. I can't remember what it was, but I remember doing one and being so pissed off when they got done once they told me what they were doing. It's kind of cruel. But anyway, so they bring one person in, or they bring like 9 people in the room. Only one person was the actual subject. The other 8 were plants that were all purposely choosing the wrong combination of lines.
Ah, okay.
And then they would all try to persuade the other person that they were wrong. So the single person was against 8 other people.
Sure.
And 30% of the people folded and picked what the group said.
Ew.
That's pretty wild, isn't it? I mean, that's like, wild. And it's interesting. Like there is a little bit of difference. They did like 10 different combinations of lines. So some of them that were more obvious, people stuck to it more. But the ones that were a little bit closer together, people had more doubt. But overall, across all the different ones, 1/3 of the subjects chose the incorrect line because of group consensus.
Wow.
Yeah.
That gives you a lot of faith in our jury system.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So here's, I was like, well, how would this apply today? Right. Because this was 1950. Is this still true?
Right.
So I was looking up some ideas and some things, like where does social pressure play? And we've talked about social proof. It's one of the tenets of good marketing, right?
Yeah.
Well, one example that comes to mind that we've mentioned on this show numerous times, but we'll bring it up again, is the old Get a Mac campaigns, right? PC versus Mac.
Absolutely.
Pop quiz for our listeners and for you, Jonathan, without Googling or looking up. What year approximately was the PC versus Mac campaign?
2000. Huh? When the first.
Well, just when they came out and when they ran. It was
when they first started running.
It was a 3-year span.
I think it was back in, I want to say from like 2005 to 2008. That's my guess. Very
good. Very good. Yeah. 2006 to 2009.
Oh, wow.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right there. You went a little short, but yeah, you're right there. I didn't, that's been 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's just crazy. Like, man, we're getting old. But yeah, so if you think about that, they were subtly suggesting that the majority of cool, creative people used Max and that everybody else did not, right? So,
Right.
so it was a subtle pressure that if you want to be cool, you need to do what this guy's doing. And
Yep.
so it's a form of social pressure. It's a form of what we're talking about. Where we've seen this explode, obviously, is social media with the like button.
Yep.
In fact, it got so bad that they've taken that off of a lot of, like, you can choose to turn off like the number of likes on your like the likes no longer show on Instagram, the
Right.
number of likes, I think.
Right.
And they took the don't like button off of YouTube.
I saw that the dislike is no longer available. Yeah.
Yeah, you can still dislike it, but it doesn't count. It
It's not
doesn't
gonna
show a number.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Can't
counts,
see
but it counts for stats, I think, but the average viewer watching can't see
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So the idea is they don't want people piling on, right?
Sure.
So they've taken away these things. So that's how powerful this is. That
Yeah.
as the numbers tick up, more and more people pile on. They're like, oh, it's okay to not like this thing, so I'm going to not like it either.
It is. I mean, people just gang up one after another.
Yeah, and it just creates this this frenzy.
Right.
And then the final one is TikTok challenges, right? Because one person does it, and a couple people do them, then you see them, then you see 10 of them in your feed, and now all of a sudden you're doing something stupid, like walking on milk crates in high heel shoes, or that's an old one, but or go back to the ice bucket challenge. That one wasn't as dangerous, but that was one of the first viral online challenges, I think, was kind of the ice bucket challenge back in the day. But now you see these people, the old man challenge, right? The old man challenge, balance challenge. Have you seen that one where you try to put your shoes on without touching the ground or sitting down?
No.
One leg at a time. Yeah, you just look up old man challenge. It's hard to explain on a podcast, but it's to test your balance, basically. Like, can you put your shoe on one sock and shoe at a time without, putting your foot on the ground or sitting down or that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's social pressure. Like
social pressure, social proof. I mean, people act and herd sometimes. I mean, that's just the way they go. I mean, that's why your parents, I mean, what do your parents always tell you when you're young? Don't, if so-and-so does it, does that mean if so-and-so jumps off a cliff, are you going to do that? And,
probably not. But if 10 people do it,
but if 10 of those guys did it, maybe
odds go way, way up. Right. Yeah. If the one crazy guy in the group jumps off the bridge into the river in the middle of the summer, everybody else might just kind of look. But if 8 of them do it, you're probably doing it.
Well, think about this. Like, if you're on the highway and you see, people tend to follow what, if there's a lane or something like that closed off, or if there's a split in a lane, something like that happens. And if you're typically going to follow where you see the majority of people take the exit, or, you're going to go with the flow. That's just what people do. There's, you don't want to venture. You're not going to venture out. Most people are going to follow the leader when in a traffic situation.
Have you seen this documentary, Darren Brown's The Push? I think I mentioned it before.
Yeah, I think I remember you.
So this is the same thing, right? So for those that aren't familiar with it, and I won't spoil it, they set up this environment for this guy. I'm just going to let it play. You won't be able to hear the sound, but while we're talking, I'll just let it play for anybody that's watching on video. So basically what happened is they set up this thing, and everybody was in on it except for this one guy. And they created this dramatic scene where somebody has a heart attack. They think he's dead, or he thinks they're dead. And they think, and basically the thing is they take him up to the roof and they try to get him to push the guy off the roof, knowing he's not dead actually.
Sure.
But they'd already told people that he was dead and that he was somebody else and all this stuff. So this web of lies just cascaded.
Wow.
And so the question is, does he push or does he not? Right? Is he one of the 30% or is he one of the thing? And what's interesting, they did this with 3 different people. So at the end, they tell you, like, you don't know that at the beginning, but at the end, they tell you we did this 3 times and here's what happened with each person. But it was absolutely riveting to kind of watch, to see. I mean, you talk about social pressure. This was like taking that experiment to a whole new level.
Wow.
But it's a great documentary, worth watching on Netflix.
Sure. Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff. So yeah, social
Fascinating.
pressure. It's if you can manufacture it,
Mhm.
in a healthy way.
Right.
One of the ways you do this, is restaurants, right? If there's more cars in the parking lot, or if there's more tables
I
full, if
was
there's
just thinking
people
about that.
waiting,
Yeah.
then that seems like a better place to go eat, right?
Mhm.
You'll drive past an empty restaurant to go to one that's a little busier because it feels safer to go to.
Yep.
Now, if there's a 2-hour wait, that's a little too much.
Mhm.
You'll probably go back and take a chance, right? Because of risk reward and all that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you'd rather go to a busy restaurant.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is manufactured all the time. I mean,
oh yeah,
and it's easy. It's one of those things that you can do. I mean, you need obviously you need people in place. We talked about what have we talked about? What a couple of episodes back. Just talking about the old Hitchcock effect, where
yeah,
he would manufacture the impression of
yeah.
that social pressure of
Putting the nurses outside the studio, the movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen those videos where people just start standing in line
Mhm.
randomly in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere,
Right.
and people start lining up? Like
Yep.
it's crazy. Or
Yep.
one person looks up, and most people ignore it, but then two people look up, just looking
Yeah.
up at something on top of a building or whatever. And then three people, and then four, and
Mhm.
next thing you know, everybody's looking, because it hits a mass number
Oh yeah.
where you're like, well, that many people are looking, it must be something. And
That's
you
right.
look up and you don't see anything,
Mhm.
but you keep looking, because if everybody else is looking, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe
Exactly. Yeah.
maybe my eyes aren't good. And you start doubting your own
Yeah.
judgment,
Mhm.
which is exactly what this was, right? I mean, the lines are obvious,
Right.
but when everybody's telling you, you're like, well, maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
eighth of an inch off, and I can't tell. And it's like, yeah, it's fascinating to really think about.
It really is. Yeah.
But
Talking about, Hitchcock, like he would have people go in, he would hire people to who were actors that would, go obviously into the theater. Right. And people would, obviously fall behind you. They'd see like this, a lot of people, obviously they paid their tickets, those people were legit, but then he would have people that did not pay, that were lined up, that would, be walking in and show excitement, and just, those types of things seed, that helps to seed the momentum or the interest.
I'll tell you another place I just remembered that did this, and who I think it was Billy Graham that made this kind of famous.
Yep.
So he would do these stadium events, these arena events, and there's always an altar call at the end, right?
Right.
Well, it's so awkward, right? If you want to go down, you don't want to be the first to move.
Of course not. No.
Right? You got to shuffle by the whole row of people,
Right.
because the seats are all next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So what they started doing, and I don't know if he started it or who started it, but I think he really brought it on. And now all the mega churches do it. So what they do is they have the counselors that are going to receive the people.
Mm-hmm.
They're up in the crowd. So when the altar call starts, they just start coming down 5, 6, 10 at a time. And, you don't know that that's who they are, but that creates motion. It creates, people are backing up for each other. So now you're not the only one. And it gives you permission to, so think of it too, like you can stage this to give people permission to do what they already want to do.
Right.
It's not just manipulation.
No.
You can use it in a way that helps people move forward.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, they're afraid or they're nervous, they have their own fears for moving forward or taking action.
Yeah.
And obviously that can help,
Yeah, that's really that's really what testimonials are, right? It's
right.
That same thing, just giving people comfort that somebody else has done this before them.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you had let's stick with the throwback theme before we come up to date.
Yeah, I think it's a good. It's actually a good follow up to you talking about Apple. I'm glad you brought that up with the, the whole I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. So, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Kevin Donlin, who's been on our show. I think he's a really good copywriter. He's kind of one of those old school guys. He does the he does the paper emails, which I really love. I've gotten a lot of great ideas from him, but he was talking this week about the FCB grid. Never heard of that. It goes back to the 80s. Wow. And this is it's called the foot cone belting, developed way back in 1980.
Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like, considering the reasoning for this, they could have come up with a better name. It's also known as I think the Von grid as well. So what this is, and I'm going to give an example on the screen.
Von grid.
Von grid.
Yeah, that wasn't
Richard Vaughn.
I thought
does that ring a bell?
I thought it was your girlfriend from high school. Von grid.
Von grid. Von grid.
She was an exchange student, right?
Yes, sounds like one. Let's see. I want to show this, Sean. There we go. All right. So,
okay.
This is broken down, and you'll love this, Sean, because it's broken down into 4 quadrants. The top one is the high involvement, the think.
So top left, if you're following
top left, right?
Audibly.
Number 2, the 2 quadrant is the high involvement, but feeling more feeling than thinking.
Okay.
And the 3rd quadrant falls down into the low involvement,
so
but thinking.
Lower left.
And then, of course, the last one is the 4th quadrant, the lower right, which is it falls into feeling, but low involvement. So
that'd be low feeling and low involvement, right?
That's right. That's right. So it's one of those things that, so consider.
That's where all the engineers live. Well, I guess it's still not, they may be involved. Yes. Yeah, so I'm interested how you unpack this, because I can't think right off the top of my head like the quadrant 4.
Yeah. So when you're thinking of how your customer makes their buying decisions, like who your target market is and how they're making their decisions, most companies, and I've this is one of the takeaways I talk about, going to trade shows like the Craft Brewers Conference. I pick up these things. I spent a lot of my time walking the floor and picking up people's
swag,
flyers. Yeah, I got some swag too, which I picked up a really cool hat from Lotus. I'm giving them some free advertising right now. Yeah. Lotus Beverage Alliance. They have a cool hat, so I had to stop by their booth.
Not a car. I thought it was the car. It's not the car.
Yeah, yeah. It would. I would have entered a drawing, Sean, hopefully to win myself Lotus, but no, these are, everything that you pick up along, and we've talked about this in the past, every time you pick up someone's selling material, their flyers, their one sheets, their marketing sheets, they're all the same. And what quadrant do you think that they fall into when most of these companies are developing their marketing materials?
3,
low involvement. Okay. Well, you're in the right, you're on the right side, and it could be high involvement or low involvement, but high involvement meaning the high level of technical, how much involvement does it take, in terms of how easy is it to make a decision?
Okay.
How technical that they create. Yeah. So I'm going to show you another. And
I was thinking like interaction involvement, not so involvement in this case is like effort to process the material.
Exactly.
Got it.
So I'm going to give you another example, and this is from this is actually an example that in that same quadrant. This is one that Kevin shared on his, using the same example of a product position, and I really love this. But using that same grid, he breaks it down, and he uses different labels on these quadrants. It's pretty much the same. So in terms of the first one, which is the complex, he uses complex, simple, and then the first quadrant being complex and analytical, complex, emotional. So that probably explains it a little better when you see a quadrant like this than the previous. And then third quadrant being analytical, simple, and then fourth quadrant being emotional simple. So I just kind of gave that away because he's already got these filled in.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk about a lot of these trade shows, especially companies that make, engineering, like equipment, things like that, or chemicals, or,
giant stainless steel tanks.
Exactly. Most of them fall into this complex analytical when it comes to creating that, meeting people where they need to buy, right?
Right.
And look at these examples: IBM, Xerox, Digital, Compaq, Commodore. But as you mentioned previously, our example of Apple and how they did such a brilliant marketing campaign back in the for those during that 3-year run.
Yeah.
Where do they fall? Simple, emotional, right?
Yep.
They did not. In fact, they advertised, or they marketed against this quadrant right here, right? The analytical complex, because that was the I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. The PC guy was always in this quadrant.
Yeah. See, I was thinking you'd want to be in quadrant 2, but actually you want to be in quadrant 4, lower right,
because they made it simple, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where if you make it emotional, but it's still complex, then the old saying is, the more friction you create between your product and the buyer, the less likely they are to buy. So, and that, I think that's the brilliance of Apple, is that they did lower the friction. They made it simple. Well, it's all you got to do is turn it on.
Right.
Right.
And they very rarely talk about specs.
Right. Exactly.
Right? They don't talk about RAM. They don't talk. I mean, if you go on their site, even to this day, when you go on their site, you scroll and it's mostly imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And only for those people that want to go deeper, there's a button an icon you can press to open up the actual, features,
right,
of the different, like it'll say, amazing graphic card to play games ever faster than ever, or whatever,
right,
which is very emotional and simple. And then it's got a notch that if you want to go deeper, it'll open up the specs and give you the, type of graphic card and the RAM and all that stuff.
Right.
Which is brilliant. I think I still think that's one of the, best designed websites.
Oh, absolutely.
For products.
Yep.
Because it's all there if you want it, but for most people, they don't want it, right? They just want the coolest looking laptop.
Yeah, and design, again, where does design fall into? Emotional. It's that emotional quadrant, and that's what Apple
and simplicity, the way they design.
Absolutely, simplicity and that beautiful. They made it almost like a piece of art. The aluminum casing. The brilliant, and with the the little, for the longest time, the little Apple light up logo that was on every MacBook. That was.
I can't believe they got rid of that.
Emotional. Yeah, no, I can't either. That was the dumbest decision, but just the, that gives you an idea. So, I thought this was a great, this is actually a really good tool. If you're ever considering whether it's you're creating a digital course or a product of any type, understand where your market is buying from. You want to be on the emotional side. If you're on the complex analytical, this is the place where, companies like IBM lived, but this is not where, think about who your core audience is, when you're making that decision. So I see a lot of companies that spend their time on this, and because of this, they spend a lot of marketing dollars on wasted advertising materials that are complex. I read all of this stuff that I picked up, and none of this makes it simple or emotional, right? And we've talked about in the past is learn how to create problems, like learn how to create new problems that your customers aren't aware of using emotion, right? Companies that can develop new things to think about that are emotion based, given the times that we live in with a recession or inflation and all of these things that are going on in the news around us, there's surely something that you can come up with. A great example that I find that you can pull from this, Sean, is I don't know if you've ever watched the show. I don't know if you ever jumped into the series Better Call Saul.
No.
Okay, it's a great example of so he's a lawyer, but he's also a brilliant. He's kind of a showman type marketer. So this guy loves to. There's a brief period in one of the episodes where he loses this guy, the character Saul Goodman or Jimmy McGill. He goes by Saul Goodman. That's his trait. That's his kind of his handle that he uses in law. But he loses his license for like a year. So he's selling, cell phones. That's it. And the series takes place back in the early 2000s where, cell phones were the rage. You were selling flip phones and these things like this. So,
yeah.
But he came up with the idea of not just selling a cell phone that the way that everybody else was, but he was selling on the emotional appeal of selling prepaid cell phones so that you could hide your business from the IRS or the government. And so he started selling these to people on the street, right?
Yeah.
By creating a new problem. Like, do you want the government listening in? Do you want the the IRS listening to your business? If you're doing a cash only business, do you want the IRS listening to your conversations? So he was selling these things like hotcakes by making it simple and emotional, right?
Yeah.
So
and like you said, creating a new problem they weren't aware of.
That's right. That's right. Do you know who's listening to your conversations? Uncle Sam.
Which is, it's funny you say that. That's WhatsApp. That's their current campaign.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's privacy.
Like and encryption.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going right against United States Post Office.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're like, they're like, you might as well be using a carrier pigeon. So,
right.
Yeah, the WhatsApp commercials are
those are great.
They're kind of funny. It's like, your text is wide open.
Yeah.
We don't think it because we're not hackers, so we don't really think about it. But and that's why they bring it up because we don't think about it. So you have to bring it up if your typical person is not thinking about it, you have to tell them.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, that's a cool grid. I'm gonna have to look that up and.
Yeah, I'll send you a link on it. There's a lot of stuff you can find. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's good way to kind of test where you are and how you're a simple way to test how you're creating that emotional, if you're creating that emotional appeal, when it comes to your customers buying.
Yeah. Well, why don't we jump to the 4-hour commercial?
Oh man, I can't wait to hear about this.
We'll only play half of it.
I don't have 4 hours, Sean.
Yeah, that's why we're only going to play half. So this is I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of just interesting. So basically, this is the commercial. So it's a YouTube channel. If you look down here on the thing, it's Nissan USA,
right?
Car company. They have 442,000 subscribers, which is, you'd expect a lot of people probably like Nissans and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But this is specifically, so this is what a lo-fi channel. So I'm going to play it a little bit. Are you familiar with lo-fi music?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Let me put my mic up to it a little bit. Could you hear that? I don't know if it.
Oh yeah, I can hear it.
So it's that kind of music, and it's super popular, for kind of work music, have behind while you're writing or doing work on the computer, things like that. So people will pop these things open on their browser, and like this one is 4 hours and 8 minutes and 33 seconds. And if I scroll down, you can see it's got 18 million views.
Wow.
And it just went on 3 months ago. Now, here's the thing. I scrolled through this, like it never tries to sell you anything. She's just on this 4-hour road trip. The sun changes. Now she's in the city, but she's driving a Nissan. You can see the logo on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the inside of their Ariya car, one of their new, I think it's their new electric car.
Mm-hmm.
But it never asks you to buy anything, never asks you to go to a dealer. It's just pure, like, and it doesn't change. She's sitting there tapping her finger the whole time.
For 4 hours without making a rest stop or,
Yeah.
stopping
I don't know if she ever
take a
drinks.
bathroom break.
I don't know if she drinks out of her thermos or anything there. So I don't think so. She just sits there. But like these channels are everywhere. These lo-fi channels, like people watch them all the time.
Right.
So Nissan was like, why don't we make our own from the inside of a car? And we'll just
Sure. Yeah.
And every once in a while, she'll pass like a Nissan billboard.
Of course she does.
So subliminally, if this is playing off to the side, for a lot of people that have dual monitors or things like that, it's playing off to the side. You glance over at it, you see the, subconsciously, you're going to see the Nissan logo on the steering wheel. So it's, and you're going to see Nissan, down here at the channel name.
Of course. Yeah.
And then of course there's, now that you're going to see all their related videos that might catch your attention.
Right.
So it's not like it's not something we would do necessarily if you're really into direct response. It's probably not something you're going to do, right? But from a branding standpoint, it's very interesting. I don't know.
Is this an EV? Is this a
yeah, I think so.
Electric vehicle? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Which explains why she's driving 4 hours without stopping for gas.
Yeah. It doesn't explain the bladder though. She is young, so
that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was fascinating when a friend sent that to me. That pretty easy to make too. I mean, that would be. I would think that's
absolutely
basic software to make. You throw on
18 million views. So I wonder what the if most people, like you said, most people are just turning that on in the background.
Yeah, that's how most people do it.
But that's good. I mean, that's good for them anyway. The fact that people are spending time on that page. I can only imagine the minutes they're, in addition to the views, the minutes of that.
Right. Yeah.
One video.
Yeah. I mean, so they're making money off of it.
Right.
It's actually, I mean, for the world of Nissan, it's nothing. It doesn't even show up on the spreadsheet.
Sure.
But it's not a loss. I mean, it's not an expense either. Right. I mean, they probably made money even on, if you figure in creation and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But what they did is they just tapped into a trend, lo-fi music, these types of videos. Like if I were to type in the search bar, lo-fi, like there's all kinds of these videos, like trains, and they're all these animated videos. Like,
they like to use the anime characters. Like,
this one's just somebody just sitting at their desk, just writing, listening to music, probably the same thing you're doing, right? So there's, and this one is supposed like live, like who cares?
Yeah.
But I think the live makes it more engaging somehow.
Sure. Right.
Like, I don't know, is she going to do something?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, we talked about the Sit and Smiles guy on here, right?
Oh yeah.
A long time ago. I mean, that was insane. It's, so it's interesting because like, it's, they're just tapping into a trend in the, pop culture trend and using it to your advantage. So they took an idea that was already out there, made their own, put their branding on it, put it on their channel.
Cool. Yeah.
And now their channel gets, more hours. So all their other stuff's going to show up, and especially for their fans. Right.
Yeah.
So it's, I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
No, it is. Cause
is it going to, add $10 to the share price? Probably not. It's not going to do that.
Well, the first thing, and I'm not as a consumer, I'm trying to think of it from a consumer standpoint. I'm watching that video.
Yeah.
And I see the name of that car. And my first thought is, what does that car look like? Right. I want to Google that because I don't even know. I don't know. I hear that name of that car, the Aria or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm naturally going to look and see maybe there's, as you scrolled up, there's some related videos on that car.
Right.
Or I can search more about it.
Yeah. I think there was in the description, there was some stuff. Let me look.
Because it's a curiosity thing. Naturally, I just want to know. Okay, that's curious.
Yeah, let me go back. So the first link goes to the vehicle. Right?
Yeah. There you go.
So there it is. And you can build it and price it. It would be fascinating to know how many click-throughs they get from that link. Because know they have it tracked.
Oh yeah.
So I would love to know how many, and it's cool because they did a very good tip for all of you out there that have a website, they popped the thing in a new browser. They didn't change, or a new tab.
Of course they, yeah.
They didn't switch tabs, right?
Right.
Because you want to keep that YouTube time running, all
Mhm.
that stuff.
Mhm.
But I see when I do consulting for people, I see so many people that don't click that option when they put a link on their website to
And it
open a
leaves
new
the
tab.
website.
And
Yeah.
it leaves the website. Yeah.
Terrible
Terrible.
mistake.
Yeah, it's rookie, man. You can do better than that.
Absolutely. That is
That's
cool.
So that's what I got. I think you had one more, right? Or did you? You have one more?
If I did, I may have forgotten it.
Is it fake news? Something about fake news?
Oh, fake news. Fake news. You know what?
I'm just reading the title. So
I forgot what the fake news was about.
yeah. Oh well.
What's in the news this week that I would have said? Let me think.
Must have been something you heard on talk radio on your drives.
Yeah, probably so. I'm just trying to think. Oh, there was one. Oh yeah, there was one. I'm gonna have to save it for next week because I think I may have used that in the title and then forgot to prepare myself ahead of time.
So the headline is also fake. If you've been waiting to the end of the episode for the fake news part of the headline,
you just got it right.
Point made.
Curious though, did you see? Let's get into politics a little. Did you see the town hall on CNN or any snip? I didn't watch it, but I saw some of the reaction from news.
I did not.
From news channels. From a persuasion standpoint, I was just curious if you saw it, but it got a lot of attention.
I did not. Didn't even know it happened.
Yeah, it happened this week.
How effective it was for me.
A lot of pushback to CNN for that because apparently it was a giant campaign. It was a giant campaign commercial for Donald Trump. So it was kind of interesting that they would have him on. Obviously it was a ratings push. I think obviously it's news is about ratings. So right. I think that was their end game, was to get a little ratings bump there.
Yeah, by bringing the enemy on, right?
Right, bringing the enemy, and he got free airtime. I mean, it was free. I mean, he's just picking up free money right there.
It's crazy.
That was free money for him. No expenditure whatsoever that he got to talk.
Oh, and like their audience was just yelling at the TV the whole time.
Of course,
right?
Of course,
so they're staying engaged.
Yep,
watching every commercial, every Pfizer commercial.
Right. Absolutely. So from my standpoint, my takeaway was it was a win-win for everyone. It was a win for him. It was a win for CNN.
Yeah.
Because they got a huge, bump in their, ratings.
Yeah.
Which I think from what I read, they desperately needed.
Yeah.
I think their management is trying to the new CEO or president of CNN is trying to make some changes. And certainly that was one of his strategies. Hey, we need a ratings bump. We're just going to have the guy that we've been bashing, the last 7 years.
Let's just stir the pot a little bit.
Let's stir it. Let's create some more controversy. Why not? And
hey, it works on Facebook, right?
I think it worked. It's so interesting though, politics aside, how the media works and how, like you talked about, they probably had, I don't know how many commercials for Pfizer or whatever, that were running during that time. Just how much of the media is pure manipulation. Maybe that's probably where we could use that fake news and just how so much of this is completely manufactured.
It's definitely, I mean, it is all about advertising dollars now. And that trickles back to, I actually tried to write a financial promo back when I was writing financial copy.
Right.
About this. Pretty much everything changed. I think it was 1974 when it basically became easier with the invention of mutual funds and more for the average consumer to get on Wall Street and buy stocks, right? Because it used to be, before that, you had to buy 100 shares and you had to buy the full shares.
Oh yeah.
100 share blocks, right? You couldn't buy. You couldn't just say I want $100 worth of anything, right? You had to be able to buy 100 shares of whatever.
Yep.
And then when they changed that law and they started bringing in mutual funds and all this stuff, it brought more and more investors in. Well, then that started creating this quarterly profits thing, which just
Sure.
has accelerated. And companies were chasing quarterly profit numbers and all that. So that, and then that led into advertising and all, it just snowballed. There was a similar law for pharmaceuticals. I think it was early 90s or late 80s that, I don't know if you realize this, but I think it was late 80s, you couldn't advertise pharmaceuticals on TV.
No, of course not.
Cigarettes are fine, but not pharmaceuticals.
Isn't that crazy?
Not sure there's much difference.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so, and just it has snowballed to now where every other commercial is a pharmaceutical commercial.
It is. It's crazy.
So, they gotta, it's all about the ad platforms, which is also what social media is about, anything else, so it's crazy.
It is.
Speaking of ads, let me throw this ticker up on the bottom of the screen. If you want to try the gift that keeps on giving, go to persuasionbythepint.com/craft beer and try the Craft Beer Club.
The Craft Beer Club. Good
we
stuff.
Pitched that in a while. So throw that out there since we're talking about ads.
All right. So there's one I had time. I remembered what it was. I wanted to send it over. Sean, you'll love this. Okay. Didn't you try the Epic Times for a season?
Yes.
Okay. So, and this has nothing to do, but this is a ad that I thought was really interesting. I was actually going to send it to you, but I forgot this week.
You're not sharing your screen if you mean to be.
There we go.
The Epoch Times.
Another one that I pulled this week. I don't know if somebody shared this, but I thought it was interesting. So look at the very top. We mailed you this free copy to break through suppression by big tech.
It's a great headline.
Isn't it though? I thought, man, that is so good.
Yeah.
Considering what we're talking about, what's been in the news.
Yeah.
Recently with everything from AI to, what's going on with, all the big tech companies.
Yep.
And this is kind of a throwback, a free copy to break through the suppression by big tech.
Yes.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's good. And it shows that they know who their audience is too.
Right. Yeah. So, they're hidden right in the worldview.
Mm-hmm, right. Exactly. And that goes back into, again, going back to that quadrant that we talked about, the FCB.
Yep.
You have to hit people in the emotional, but also in the simple but emotional, because guess what? That doesn't take a whole lot of thinking, does it? When you read that, it's like, oh yeah, going back to that lizard brain, the simple, go into that simple conclusion. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is big tech. Yeah. They're the problem.
Yeah. And especially if you've never heard of the Epic Times, right? Then you're like, oh,
exactly.
I've never heard of these guys. Must be true.
Right.
Yep. That's a good headline right there.
Yeah.
Some copywriters making 5 cents a mailing on that.
Exactly.
Probably Richard Armstrong.
No doubt.
My buddy. All right, man. Well, that was a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. As always, you can find us over at persuasionbythepint.com. As Sean mentioned, if you would, if you want to get some really good sample wares. By the way, Sean, at the show this week, they had every now and then you would have like little booths where they were getting out little samples, like little shot samples of different, and it was mostly, there were some ales, there were some lagers, but it was heavy IPA, man. That's where most everything gravitated towards IPAs. So
it must be cheaper to make or something.
I don't know. It's just where the market is right now. Maybe people love that pine sol.
Yes. Sad. I should write.
But yes,
I'm going to send out a stout. I'm going to start a stout beer newsletter. And call it some type of suppression, IPA
Maybe.
suppression.
Absolutely. You should do that. Or have AI do it.
Well, AI is left leaning, so I can't.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It'll be like, no, you need to do IPA. Like, dang it.
Damn. Oh, man. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Persuasionbythepint.com, as we mentioned. And if you want a great craft beer, go to /craft beer if you want to give the gift that keeps on giving over at Craft Brew Club. What is it? Is that
Craft
it?
Beer Club? Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, Craft Beer Club.
I don't know.
So we don't care if you do or not. But yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and take care.
See ya.
See ya. All right.